Hey everybody, this is Mike. Today I'm going to do a follow-up on my garden. It's the end of summer, it's September 4th. I pulled probably 90% of the garden out, and I've planted some fall plants that I've started from seed. I'm not growing a whole lot. It's more of an experimental year to see if I can even grow anything. It's still pretty hot in the mid to upper 90s. So the plants are struggling. They look a little rough, but it's, like I said, it's a practice, it's experimental. What I've planted this year is a couple varieties of lettuce, trying some fall cucumbers, got some cabbage, cauliflower. I've got two different varieties of cauliflower down there, and of course I got some broccoli. And I think maybe next week I'm going to put some beet seeds in and see how those will do. But we're going to go down here, take a quick look at the garden, see what's going on, show you some of the plants. Some of them look kind of rough. I'm going to put some water on them, see if I can perk them up. But anyway, we'll take you down to the garden and check it out. Hope you guys enjoy it, see what I'm doing. Okay, here's the fall garden that I've started. What I'm showing you here is the last 3 rows of the garden. The first 4 rows still has summer produce in there. So we're going to take a look at this end. Stuff I just put in, in the last 2-3 weeks. Everything I've started from seed, of course, and planted the plants in different times the past 2 or 3 weeks. Over here on the left, where you see the small green plants, that's where the cauliflower is. Behind it, further down that row, is the broccoli. The cauliflower in the front I planted before the broccoli. It's looking pretty good. It's coming along. Now that cauliflower in the back, where you see it's getting a lot of sun, a lot of heat, it's not doing well at all. So I don't know if that stuff is going to make it or not. It's still really hot here in South Carolina, and it's mid 90s to upper 90s. It seems like all the time. So I don't know how it's going to do. Plus it's in the direct sunlight a lot more, so it's taking a beating. So I may not get much broccoli. But anyway, here in the center on this trellis, I'll show you. It's again, it's cucumbers. And the cucumbers, they're doing pretty good. Not bad. I started them by seed, but I got a little bit ahead of myself and anxious and just getting them in the ground. They didn't really establish a good root ball. So that was my mistake. I planted 5 there, and I had 1 make it, which was a little discouraging, but like I said, I rushed it. I was wanting to get them in, so I got 1 that made it. But on the other side, the left and right side of that center plant, I went ahead and put seeds in, which really, it does better just planting the seeds. And they're coming up really good. They look really good. So they're coming along. They're a couple weeks behind the center one, but that one in the middle, the cucumber in the middle, it's got blooms on it. So I've got cucumbers getting ready to come in on that little bitty plant. So that's pretty cool. But over here, what I'm getting ready to show you next is the raised bed. Now this lettuce, the lettuce, I started it indoors as well, because you need to be around 65 to 70 degrees at most to help for those seeds to germinate. And like I said, it's mid 90s still here. So I started that in the house, and I waited longer to transplant. I waited for those plants to get a little bit bigger, a little bit better looking, and they're doing well. I'm going to show you the other end of this raised bed where I planted lettuce down there, and like I said, I got ahead of myself and got it in the ground early. Didn't let it really mature big enough to transplant it. So it's not doing well at all. But this down here is doing good. But it's in the shade too, so it's not getting a lot of direct sunlight and heat. So it's looking pretty good. But you'll see at the other end, it's getting beat up pretty good in this heat. I'll have to get some water on it. But it's growing. It's an experiment. Never had a fall garden, like I said, so I'm learning as I go. I'm finding out that the shaded areas of my garden with this fall stuff is looking good. But the stuff at the other end of the garden where I'm getting a lot of sun and heat, ooh, not good. So that tells me next year if I want to do this, I need to get my shade cloth out, hoop it, protect the plants a little bit better than I did this year. I just put it in the ground to see what would happen. But evidently I need shade because this South Carolina sun is too much. But anyway, let's go over here. I'm going to show you this cabbage. The cabbage plants are doing good. It's red cabbage. Whoops. It's red cabbage. It's doing okay. Like I said, the stuff that seems to be more in the shade of the day, to me, looks way better than the stuff down here on the end, because you'll see that the plants are smaller, thinner, weaker. They just don't look good. Especially here. This area here gets a lot of sun. Look how small they are. They're not doing good. And like I said, this is the lettuce, or the lettuce different. It just don't look good. I'm gonna have to get that watered real definitely. I may get some, but not much. It needs shade. Too hot, too much sun. And here's that last raggedy Roma plant. I'll get a couple more Romas off of that. But anyway, down here in the end, you can see the broccoli. I had a bunch of broccoli plants down this row. I've got maybe a handful of plants left. And I do water it. It's watered twice a day. But like I said, man, it's 90 plus degrees out here still. And you can see when you get down here towards the shade, this cauliflower is looking good. But like I said, with the fall garden, starting plants, you need to get them in end of August, end of September time frame. When you live in the South, you still got a lot of heat. So what you need to do is definitely use some shade cloth. And I will do that next year. It's been interesting watching the trees shade this part of the garden and how well they do. You know, the sad part of it is I've got shade cloth and I didn't even use it. I thought I'd be okay being the end of the year, but it's still way too hot. But hey, that's gardening. Learn as you go. And anyway, it's a small area right now. I'm not going crazy with it. Like I said, it's an experimental year. I want to put a ton of time and money into it. It's kind of like do some experiments, see what happens, and definitely change it up for next year. But anyway, I'll try to do an update for you next week. It'll be really interesting to see how this does. Show you these plants. Hopefully the ones there in the back, the broccoli, won't be dead. Hopefully I'll have a couple broccoli plants left. Anyway, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next week, hopefully. Thanks a lot for watching.